Hi everybody, welcome to the Purpose People podcast. Today we've got Amy from Black and Blue Business. So welcome.
Thank you, Darrell.
Thanks for coming all this way into the country.
Yeah, it's different. It's
Remind
good.
you of Devon, I hear.
Devon, yes. Yeah,
So
I grew up in a hamlet.
Is that where you grew up?
For a little bit until I was 5, and then moved around for my dad's job and things. But yeah, I've never lived in like a really big city or anything like that.
Oh, okay, so where do you live now in
Bristol.
Bristol?
South Bristol.
South
Yeah.
Bristol?
Yeah.
We know South Bristol well.
Yeah.
It's around football teams and stuff.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We lived there as well for a while. So
Nice.
it's cool. I used to play football for a team called Southmead.
Okay.
And then we used to play a team called Hartcliffe. That was always a big battle.
Gosh.
Can you imagine being the referee that gets that job?
I wouldn't want it.
Exactly.
I would not want it. Yeah.
Those were the days. So tell us a little bit about Black and Blue Business, because why is it? Because people are beating black and blue? What was the reason behind it?
Yeah, that's what someone asked me actually once. No, it's not.
Tell us.
And I would love for it to be called Black and Blue, but that name was taken, so couldn't have that one. But basically, it's a really poor story because it's just because my favorite colours are black and blue. But a business coach had me once put a spin on it that we help businesses go from blue to black. You know, so like from like blue as in like you're sad to black as in like in the black. So that was like kind of like a post-event.
Post-rationalisation.
Spinning around. I was like, yeah, I can kind of go with that. I'm not completely sold because it wasn't mine, but yeah, okay.
A bit like the business books that, have been someone writes a book on the 5 steps to how I become a millionaire. They didn't do any one of them and they just made it up to make a book.
Just no. Yeah. No.
So you help people in operations.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
So
very sexy world.
The sexy world of
Sexy
operations.
world of operations, yeah.
But if you don't get it right, it's troublesome, correct?
Yes, very much so.
So you help people, with principles, with ideas, or you've got a program that you take people on, or all of the above?
All of the above, figuring out as we go along. We've been in business for a year.
Yeah.
And effectively we are a done for you service on the whole.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people out there, there's a lot of business coaches out there that will give you all the ideas of things you need to implement. But the reason I started it was because I was in a lot of business coaching rooms and seeing the same problem come up again and again. And that was not being able to implement. Yeah. So there'd be all the ideas, the best will in the world, they wanted to do it, but they couldn't find the right person. They weren't the right mindset. They weren't wired in the right way. And so it never happened. So all these businesses, this like massive just halt on the progress. And to me, that was just a tragedy.
So how do you end up doing that? Did you wake up one morning and say, I want to transform businesses and their ops? Or were you working somewhere before and thought, I don't want to do this anymore? What was your journey look like?
Mine's quite a weird one, I'm going to say. I mean, you'll be the best judge of that because obviously you have this conversation all the time.
Yeah. But it's always a theme and everyone pivots. That's what we found out so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my background, like way back, is legal and insurance. So I worked in the insurance industry for a while. It was actually really good. I decided I wanted to be an account executive with, a book of business and power, control, all that. And a couple of businesses basically said to me, you're not male and you're not 30, so no. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go and get it. So I do a middle finger sign now, but I don't know if that's allowed. So I basically went and moved around and got that job and kind of lived that through to the point where it was either that or middle management. I didn't want either. So I decided to, at that point, using your word, pivot, and I requalified as a personal trainer. Okay. And left my corporate job, did that, got very busy very quickly, built up a team, opened a gym. And it was awesome. It was a really, really good experience. And then COVID happened.
Hooray for COVID.
Yay for COVID. It was growing at a really, really fast rate in COVID, with it being a physical business completely before COVID. We opened and shut 4 times. Turnover took a hit, built it back up again. And it was getting to the point where it needed a complete business model rework because competition became global overnight. Yeah. Whereas before it had been local, and I think for fitness that hit really, really hard.
Yeah, like Peloton and people like that
exactly,
as well.
Exactly. The world has changed and everything needed to change. And I decided I wanted to start a family. And I was 3 days before my daughter arrived, and I thought, do I want to rebuild this and put everything I've got along with having a newborn baby into rebuilding this again? Yeah. And I decided no. So decided just to sell everything off, close the actual business down, and walk away and reconfigure. And I was seeing this problem that I mentioned. Yeah. I wasn't personally having that problem. I was hiring well, keeping people well, team, system, processes, all that was working for me. but for COVID, I believe that would have continued to work. So I saw an opportunity.
It's an interesting one because COVID sort of, it certainly got a lot of people to rethink life, didn't it, in terms of
definitely.
the way that they operated.
Yeah.
And I think for people that worked in a corporate background, they were faced with the fact is, I've given 25 years into this job and you're ready to bullet me without a second's hesitation.
Yeah.
And so you get a lot of people then going, right, stuff this. I'm never going to be in that position again.
Yeah.
You got other businesses that managed to survive, beg, borrow, steal, whatever they needed to do to get through it.
Yeah.
Or you got people that just completely changed career. Just like, literally, I'm doing this and now I'm going to do this instead.
Yeah.
So I find it fascinating in the way that it was. I'm not sounding like a conspiracy theorist. It was a bit of a reset, just generally for everybody.
Completely, yeah, completely.
Yeah. So we one of our big resets is we took our kids out of school 6 months before COVID.
Nice.
And we still homeschool them now today.
Amazing.
But that was a big reset for us, and then all of a sudden everyone's happened to do it. Because they were forced to do it. So we were a little bit further ahead at the time.
Yeah.
But we decided to keep going because we just saw our kids are a lot happier. So
yeah, it's awesome.
So just tell us a little bit about the common problems then you find within businesses. Like obviously operations is, if it doesn't work, everyone knows. And if it works, we see the effect of the bottom line and happy clients and stuff like that. So what do you find as sort of like the biggest pain point, the biggest like thing that squeezes people enough within the operations world? What would you say?
I think the biggest problems, I split it down into team processes and systems, and team is the biggest problem by a million miles. People not being happy with their teams. So I think drill that down again will be expectations. I think business owners generally have quite big expectations because of ourselves first, and then of everybody else second.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, those expectations aren't communicated. They're not understood. Possibly the right person isn't in the right seat.
Yeah.
And people start dropping balls. Owners get frustrated. They end up coming back into the job a second time, get stuck with somebody because they feel like they can't be that person to get rid of them. And building the team that's the right culture and the right mindset to match the owner and what the expectations are is the biggest challenge. Yeah.
And I think for me, that's, I'm like, I've not always got it right. That's the reality of it. Some people it just clicks, some people it doesn't. Some people get it, some people don't get it. And you're right, it can be the owner not communicating what they're expecting. Likewise, it could be someone that maybe didn't think it was the job that they went for as an interview and end up in the wrong place. Yeah. So would you say then? So you're saying the biggest challenge you most find is teams, people problems, people stuff.
Yeah.
More so than system stuff.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
System stuff, you get resistance from the team ordinarily.
Yeah.
But it's workable. Once people take that leap of faith and they see the results. Yeah. Then it's job done.
So what's your sort of favorite type of business? Have you got like a favorite that like you love getting in? Is it the fitness industry, or is there a sort of, not saying you niche, but is there an area that you enjoy working the most out of the companies that you work with? Yeah,
it's a good question, and the answer is I don't know yet.
Okay, figuring it out.
Yeah, it's figuring it out. Like I know myself very well in the sense that I move very quickly. Yeah, and as a result, I'm trying to just manage that a little bit and not kind of plow in too far into making decisions in terms of who it is. And we've worked with such a massive variety of people so far. Yeah, I don't know.
What about the individual, the person, the business, the CEO? Is it more owner managed? Is it more startup, or is it scale up, or is it what is it? Yeah,
scale up. Owner managed, entrepreneurial. They consider themselves a visionary entrepreneur, so they've got quite an out there idea kind of spectrum. They think maybe 10, 20, 30 years in the future rather than right now. Yeah. Lots of ideas, lots going on, move at very fast pace and really struggle to implement.
And do you find that the challenges are like focus potentially with an entrepreneur?
Yeah, focus, time management, being where they say they will be. Yeah. Again, communication is a really big challenge. They think they said something, but they haven't necessarily said it enough times for it to be got. Yeah.
So one of the things, because you're on a parallel journey, aren't you?
Yes.
That's the interesting thing.
It is. Yeah.
You're like on the journey as they are, but you're trying to show them the way whilst trying to lead yourself.
Yep.
Are you finding some of the common problems that they have in your business, or vice versa?
Ask my team.
Ask your team.
Yeah. I'm a bit of an odd one in the sense. So, are you familiar with EOS and Traction?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we work alongside that system a lot of the time. And there's an assessment called Rocket Fuel, and it basically says how much of a visionary, the creative person are you, and how much of an integrator, the implementing person are you. And I come up as pretty much very similar across the board, which is quite unusual.
Okay.
So 5% of people will come up with a result like that. So I could basically do either.
Yeah.
So the chance of me I don't have a myriad of ideas. I'm not all over the place. So they won't have that challenge, but they will have the challenge that I do expect things to be done very quickly, and I do have very high expectations.
So do you recommend people read those books first before working with you, or do you take them through the process?
Yeah, I would recommend that they do. So
I can't remember the name of the author. Quick.
Gino Wickman.
That's it.
So what we don't implement the system.
They're knocking around here somewhere.
I feel like everyone's kind of got one or seen one, or it's growing over here. So we don't ever implement that system. We would pass on to the implementers, the official guys that do that. But we will work with clients who are self-implementing or who have gone through the process with the implementers. Yeah. And they want somebody in the business to actually run it effectively.
And do you feel that when you're working with the business owners or whatever, what's their biggest pain point? What would you say is the thing they struggle with the most?
Frustration. Yeah.
In
things aren't moving as fast as they want them to. Ideas aren't getting implemented. People aren't getting it. People are thinking too granular, too right now, rather than being strategic and planning ahead. And
do you find that the entrepreneurs that you work with, is it they don't know themselves and they're like just making it up as they go along, or are they quite considered, quite like they know where they're headed? Or do you feel like you've got to work with the entrepreneur and the team? How do you see that?
A bit of all three, to be honest.
Yeah.
Those that are kind of 8 coming towards 9 figures, they tend to have more of a strategy, more of a plan.
Yeah.
Part maybe because they've got the experience to have trialed and errored a lot of things. Those that are kind of 6 and early 7, kind of more making it up as they go along.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is a process of working with the team as well, because especially those that sort of 8 and 9 figure, they recognise the limits of their own abilities a lot more than those at the lower end of the spectrum revenue wise. So then it is, they will say, I don't have the answer to this, but the CFO or X might have the answer.
Yeah, because they're of a size and they've probably got the number of people as well.
Yeah,
whereas
exactly.
As a startup, it's a little bit, we've got a team and
yeah,
often dual roles are quite common. They're doing more than one thing.
Yeah.
And trying to execute. So it's interesting because you work with quite a diverse range of businesses then, from sort of like 8, 9 figures to 6 figures or maybe even 5 figures.
No 5s.
No 5s?
No, the range has been between 150K to 70 million.
Do you see a consistent problem in all of them?
Yes.
What would that be?
In different levels. The people problem is the consistent one.
Just keeps coming up.
It's the people one, yeah.
And how do you, like with people obviously trying to get it right?
Yeah.
Do a lot of people use recruitment agencies now, or have they gone against recruitment agencies and then trying to achieve it themselves, do you think?
More the second, yeah.
So they just don't trust them, and
I think there's a big mistrust. Yeah, there is a big mistrust. I think generally the clients on the small end of the spectrum don't perceive themselves as being able to afford using a recruitment agent. So they're kind of, they'll put a job ad together and cross the fingers and hopefully they find the right person. Those kind of the bigger clients, one of our clients has got their own in-house recruitment team and they're building their own recruitment arm as well for their industry. So they've just taken the solution of just doing it themselves in a bigger way.
Which is an interesting one because they're doing it themselves. So do you give them the tools to recruit the right way? Because I'm sure they've made a few mistakes without a recruitment agency, would you say?
We do. Yeah, we do recruit as part of some of our solutions for certain roles, because what we do is not intended to be a forever thing. It's intended to be a transition thing.
Yeah.
So to get a client big enough and ready and prepared enough to have a full-time integrator with them permanently. But yeah, we help with the process and we help with writing ads that talk about a person rather than a CV or an experience. And
what would you say about skills versus values? What would you hire on?
Values. 100%.
Talk to me about values. Tell me top 5 values.
We have 3.
All right. Go with 3.
I'm a big fan of keeping them as few as you
Yeah,
can.
because you can't remember them.
Can't remember
17 values.
Well, if you can't remember them, no one else is going to care, are they? You know,
No,
like if you're the
exactly.
owner. So ours are honour, enhancement, and freedom.
Okay, talk us through those.
Yeah, so honour is do what you say you will every time. You know, be that person that people can trust. I think it's a real missing thing kind of across the board.
It's quite a old term, isn't
Old
it?
school.
Honour.
Yeah. I like things that polarize people.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like you find your people. So I really like finding people who've got old-fashioned, old-school values because it's like tattoos, you know? When you see somebody, for me, I trust people with lots of tattoos more than people that don't. I know, so you better get some. Because it's the commitment. It's the commitment and the self-knowledge and the self-awareness that you're okay with looking like this, going through that experience, all that kind of stuff. It's like that really obvious identifier.
Yeah.
So yeah, honours, it's about being that person that you can trust that follows through every time on what you say you will.
Yeah.
Enhancement's about growth. So never being in a room if you don't feel like you can add value and make something better by being there.
Yeah.
It's like taking full responsibility for everywhere you show up effectively. And freedom is, I think, good business should create freedom for you in the business and for the client and for everybody involved.
And I like them as values because they're very thought-provoking.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of business owners want freedom, but they don't know how to articulate it. And I think having been in it for so long, the common theme is I feel trapped.
Yeah.
That the business that they created to free themselves up is actually the thing that's actually holding them back.
Yeah.
Because they feel stuck. And it's systems and processes are part of it, but it's also having the right people in place to be able to free you up to do the other things that you may want to do.
That's it. It's the people and the trust that comes from having the right people, and you just feel like you can let go. And some of the, the best feedback we get is clients saying, like, I took my first 2-week holiday in 30 years. Or one of our biggest clients, the owner just took a 3-month sabbatical.
Amazing.
Because he felt like he had the team in place. But some things would get messed up and he'd come back and he'd do a little bit of course correcting. But I didn't speak to him for 3 months. He literally was out of the business. So
amazing.
That was really cool.
So do you help prepare teams for exit as well? As in the owners for exit? Do you do any of that sort
We
of
can
stuff?
do. We haven't yet, but I have got team members who have done that in the past.
Yeah, because that's a natural thing, isn't it?
It should be the thing. Yeah, I think you should always have that in your mind that that's a possibility.
Definitely.
If you got to that place.
So obviously you're working with a lot of businesses, various different sizes or whatever. You obviously, in your first year as you're building or whatever, who do you admire?
Biggest person, Grant Cardone.
Grant Cardone?
I love Grant Cardone.
10x your life. Cardone.
He's just so great.
Cool. Yeah, I've got some friends that run a networking company based in Wales.
Okay.
And they had Grant Cardone speak.
Oh.
Just pre-lockdown. So Alan Sugar and Grant Cardone.
Okay.
Incredible.
And
the weird thing, when I mention in England, they're like, what?
Most people don't know who he is.
No one wouldn't.
Yeah.
But also they didn't even know that they were there. And yet in Wales, everyone knows about it.
Crazy.
So Grant Cardone, 10x your life.
Love him.
So what is it that you like about Grant? Is it his energy? Is it his tenacity? Is it his story? What is it that sort of like warms to Grant Cardone?
I think the energy and the intensity.
Yeah.
The story doesn't really resonate for me so much because I haven't been in hospital after getting beaten up after taking a load of drugs. Yeah. Fortunately.
There's still time, no, Jake.
I know. I don't even drink. I'm very boring like that.
Snap.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's the energy and the intensity. The way he doesn't pull any punches.
Yeah.
He's not. I don't perceive him as offensive. I know some people would. But he's so intense without crossing the line of being offensive. That just
because he runs a 10x sort of like expos or conferences, doesn't he? So he gets quite a few people talk at his events.
Really big people.
Like Steve Harvey, just like he gets about 12 of them, doesn't he? He goes on that.
Yeah, really, really like celebrities.
So what book
and
would you recommend people read from him?
Him.
Because he's done loads of books, right?
Loads. I think as a starter, the most recent one that was, I think, just after lockdown started, I think it's literally just called 10X. It's probably the best.
Yeah.
And then Sell or Be Sold, I think is the second best, close.
So at his core is sales.
Selling, yes.
Yeah. So do you find that's a bit of a problem with businesses as well? Because I find a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, they have to learn to sell, but not everyone's great at selling.
No.
And then they want to outsource sales, but they can't. because they don't trust.
It's hard. And they don't
because
trust.
it's hard.
Yeah.
And certainly in the creative industry, I think we've outsourced sales 3 times and it's just been an unmitigated disaster each time.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And yet we get our businesses now from networking. We just find networking works better from building trust and relationships over a period of time around your target market and audience.
Yeah.
And so there's a steady stream of referrals coming in that way. That's worked for me.
Yeah.
So when people say, oh, well, have you got a sales thing? I thought, well, no, I'd rather have someone that likes networking because it seems to work better for us.
Yeah.
Whereas, they get all the contacts, they get the business cards, they get all this, and then it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or we give them all this is our avatars, this one, go find them. They come out of a list and we might get a few appointments, but we find very early on they just don't fit. So that's funnily enough, that's been one of the challenges I've had is outsourcing sales.
Yeah.
And when I talk to a lot of other creatives, same challenge. It's like no one gets the creative industry. I'm not saying it's the right thing. It's just the industry needs help in that area.
Yeah.
And I think I've kind of solved it, I think, through, I'm not saying, hey, I've loved one, that'd be brilliant. But I've solved a lot of it through networking and learning to network and learning to build different tribes around what we do. So that's how it's begun to work from us. But I find certainly business owners struggle with the whole sales thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the other side of the business that we do is outsource business development. So because of that, because I think the old school thing still works. The old school door opening, relationship warming up, face-to-face contact with a person rather than with a landing page. Yeah. Still works. But like you said, I'm running a dual journey. We're doing stuff for a client. Every strategy which we're running with clients, we're trialing ourselves because the guys on my team work internally and externally as well. So yeah,
What's the biggest thing you've learned in year 1?
Gosh. You can do a lot more than you think you can. Definitely. Yeah.
What would you say is the overriding emotion that you've had to deal with in that year?
The overriding emotion. God. Overwhelm.
Overwhelm. That's a good one.
Yeah, definitely.
Is it overwhelmed for the amount of work or is it overwhelmed for the responsibility? When you say overwhelmed, what unpack that a bit.
Time management. So I have a 1.5-year-old as well.
Okay.
So I started my business in her naps when she was a newborn. And
what's her name?
Rogue.
Rogue?
Yeah.
Wow. Rogue One?
No, just no ones. So figuring out, I might have had 15 minutes for her to be asleep, I might have had an hour and a half. You have kids, you don't know what's going to happen. And so just the juggling of figuring out being a parent for the first time and figuring out parenting a new business and bringing people in, and some of them worked and some of them didn't, and all that, doing that at the same time on part-time days, not part-time hours. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. So overwhelm. So how do you get over overwhelm? I mean, obviously it's a process and you're going to get overwhelmed over and over again.
Yeah.
What do you do? Go for a walk? Do you switch off? Do you read a book? Do you get hold of someone and vent? What's your...
Just keep going.
You just keep going. Just belligerent, just stubborn.
Just what else is there? If I bail, the consequences now are so much higher.
Yeah. More people.
Small people, responsibility, cost of childcare, before I even do anything. Before I work at all, I'm on a cost versus before being on a neutral.
Yeah.
So the stakes are higher, so just keep going. Yeah.
So just talk us through. Do you feel that you're on purpose, living life on purpose now? Would you say?
Yes. Yeah.
But do you think it took a while for you to find it now, and you feel this is what you're meant to do?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say everything I've done's been on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very intentional person. Like if it's not the room for me, then I'll leave.
Yeah. Okay.
And I won't take a long time to do it. So no, I think all of it has been, but it all looks different on the outside, but on the inside, it's all the same.
Do you think it's, as you chart that progress, you enjoy this the most?
In its time, yeah.
Yeah.
I loved personal training when it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then I fell out of love with it. And it was that falling out of love with it beyond the whole COVID thing that I was like, I can't do something that I'm not in love with. Yeah. So it's a no now. And I don't think I'll ever do it again.
But you still run and train.
I'll always be in love with the gym. I will always be in love with the
So
gym.
do you have a home gym or do you go to the gym?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, with COVID and stuff, obviously you had to soup up your own home. You didn't have to, but you could choose to soup up your own home setup. And then with the gym that I owned and sold, took some kit from that as well. So yeah, I've got some home stuff. And then, yeah, I go to a gym as well.
It's quite a funny one because we got another organisation called Humans,
Yes.
as you're aware of.
Yes.
And it's about being happier, healthier, smarter and kinder.
Yeah.
And often as an entrepreneur, those are the 4 things that go when you're trying to build something.
Yeah.
Have you got any tips for entrepreneurs to be healthier? Mm-hmm. From someone that's from a gym background or whatever? Because I think that's, for me, if I look at all the things, that's probably the first thing that goes. I haven't got time for the gym.
Interesting.
I haven't got time to work out. It's just too much. And then you're snacking or you're eating or you're grabbing stuff on the hoof, or if you're driving, you stop off at the petrol station and grab something junkish, and then you're like wondering why I feel terrible later on. So have you got any tips for that?
I have 2. Yeah, I would say play the long game as well as the short game. In the short game right now, you don't have time. You know, when I was trying to figure out a business and look after a baby, didn't have time.
Yeah.
But the consequences of not putting the time in over the long term, so huge. And knowing that at some point I'd have to restart what I had been in, that was a painful prospect. So
yeah,
kind of leverage that painful prospect against yourself a little bit. And the second one would be to always be really conscious of what you have and sometimes what you had. You know, I motivated myself to come back from having a baby by looking at photos of what I had before all the time.
Okay.
For want of, you know, some people might think that's quite masochistic, but if I allowed myself to forget who I was and what I had been, then I would have just continued to forget. So I'm a big fan of taking lots of photos and like comparing and stuff, and trying not to, you know, to be a dick to yourself through that process. But if you don't take those photos and go through that comparison process and realize who you were, you forget. And then you look back and then it is really painful.
It's really funny because it's like, I was thinking this the other day because I've started getting spending a lot of time stood up. I get getting really painful in my heels.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, why is this? And I figured it out the other day, literally this morning. It's because we've got hard floors. So I've been walking without socks, walking with hard floor. Yeah. And I'm thinking one of the things is if you've got a prone to that, like when you're running or whatever, and you're not running the wrong way, we're putting your heel first. Yeah. You need to put that. And then doing that as well, there's no wonder. And I was like, So hence why I'm wearing my Airs now. Nice. So these would be my Crocs.
Oh, thank God they're not Crocs.
I'm not going to wear Crocs.
Don't do that to yourself.
Everyone else keeps saying, get some Crocs. Like, no.
Do not.
Or furry slippers. No.
No.
So, you know, from a health perspective, it's like, out. But no, I think for me, I think that's something that I want to get better at because I think I've let that go so much. I used to run sports teams and stuff like that, but it's just like, you know, end of the day, you've had 100 million conversations. You're just
tired,
just don't want to do it. So I've started to walk a bit now. Get out and walk. Just, it's nice around here.
It's nice.
And just do it. And if that's the only thing I can do for now, just do that.
Well, that's it. You can't, you know, as entrepreneurs, it's very easy to be all or nothing. And then you expect yourself to be able to go to the gym, to be able to run, you know, all this kind of meal prep. And it's like, just stick with the basics. Yeah. Small and simple, and you'd be surprised at what kind of impact that has.
Yeah, definitely. So how would someone get in touch with you? How would they get, you know, they got problems, they got people challenges or whatever. Yeah. How would they get in touch with you as a...
Yeah, so we're most active on LinkedIn. Yep. So you can find us Black and Blue Business or me, Amy Bingham, on LinkedIn. We post a lot of content there. You can find me personally, Amy Bingham UK, on Instagram as well, or blackandbluebusiness.co.uk.
So how can you help? This is your pitch. How can you help someone who's trying to grow their business? What's the biggest impact you can make? This is your pitch to the world.
Yeah. So the biggest impact is you're not going to get there without somebody like us to do it. You may fall on your feet and find somebody in the pub, and they're excellent at ops and they've got the right mindset and the right culture and the right values, and then you've won. But in the absence of finding somebody in the pub, making a really intentional choice to have an integrator, not just an ops director, but an integrator. And the reason you want that is because an integrator is much more growth orientated. Yeah. So you would want to work with us if you were really committed to aggressively growing your business and making sure that everything behind the scenes worked. And you had your rock star team that, yes, people are going to come and go. No one can say that's not going to happen. Yeah. But you are as safe and as in control as you possibly can be. from a data, people, and a process perspective as an owner of a business.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking time. I know it's been quite quick because we're busy and stuff. But
I like a quick podcast.
You like a quick, get there straight to the point.
Get it done, Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been great. It's been a real pleasure. But Amy, I'm sure we'll get you back.
For sure.
But thank you for answering all these questions, and look forward to seeing it on the screen.
Love it.
All right,
Thank you,
take
Darrell.
care. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Purpose People podcast. You can obviously see us on YouTube, where you can see our wonderful setting here that we film every time we do a podcast. But you can also listen to us just in your ears on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Google. Please like and subscribe to YouTube, and please leave a review on our podcast. It really helps us get the message out that can help people live a life on purpose, for purpose. We want to help you make purpose a priority.